All right. Hey guys, good afternoon. My name is Jason Flame and I'm the host of the Master Motivation Podcast. And we're just starting something a little new. As a matter of fact, it's not really new. Tuesday Thoughts goes back probably a few years. And I brought on Mr. Danny Cleary today because he has some amazing thoughts that are a little bit more. We're going to talk a little bit about faith-based thinking and mindset, as well as some life skill lessons. And so I want to introduce Mr. Danny Cleary and let him tell you who he is, and we'll get started.
Nice. Thanks, Jason, for bringing me on and kind of forcing me to do this in a way. But my name's Danny Cleary. I'm a Catholic youth minister, a Christian youth minister that works here in Moore Park. I work at Holy Cross Church here in Moore Park, and I also work at a church called St. Max out in Westlake. And the reason that we're doing this video today is because I used to do these during the pandemic. It kind of started. I used to do these weekly videos, and I would call them Tuesday Thoughts. And it was just a way for me to kind of almost keep educating myself, because I would do a lot of reading of whether it be faith-based, like scripture, reading the scripture, reading Bible passages, things like that, or I'd see something cool online, or I would be just looking at inspirational speakers and things like that. And I would take different things that inspired me and I would talk about what I thought about them. And that's kind of how it came off. And I would just do little videos to try to, things that inspired me maybe would inspire others. And that's, kind of what our goal is today, very similar to what you do with the podcast.
Yeah, well, I can tell you guys firsthand, if you're watching this now live or you're watching it later, during the pandemic, it was one of my favorite things to watch. I would often listen to it, while I was in the gym, or just listen to it first thing in the morning. And Danny just has a very unique way of talking about certain life skills and lessons, and just we're going to talk about potential today. And we talked about this the other day in the gym, and I really got motivated. I really got inspired by what you were talking about. So can you just tell everybody your explanation of what you're thinking about when it comes to potential?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's my thoughts on it, or what came to mind. And I have to preface it with, this isn't my original kind of thought. That I saw this again on a video. I was on uh, uh, TikTok, actually. I was just scrolling through, and I saw this clip of somebody at an award show talking about this. And I always try to think, because I work with high school students, I always try to think, how can I take something that they're going to see in the real world and gear that towards their faith, or gear that towards how they can better live out the best version of themselves. I always try to encourage everybody, but teens is my, in this scenario, is how can you be the best version of yourself in everything that you do. And I think that everyone has the potential to be the best version of themselves. And what I saw was this guy, and he was talking about a rocket ship. At one point, he was talking about a rocket ship and how a rocket ship takes off. And before I get to that, I want to chat a little bit about potential being visible and invisible. So I think many times when people get discouraged about reaching their potential, they don't know how to reach their full potential. It's because it feels so out of sight or out of reach to them a little bit. Like there's no possible way that they can fathom the greatness that is within all of us, that's within us, right? And I always look at it as, God put something within me to that I could reach my most, my highest self, what he has created me to be. And I think that so many people have trouble seeing that for whatever reasons. It could be just lack of confidence, or the life being so cluttered. It could be something, maybe you're struggling with something, and that is a roadblock into you getting to your highest potential. Some way I like to use the analogy of potential is have you ever looked up? Of course you have, Jason, but have you ever looked up and seen a plane in the sky?
Yep.
Right? Of course.
Absolutely.
So when you see a plane, it's very, very, very far away, right? Like you can see it, but like you can't fathom just how high the plane is, but you can still see it.
Right.
And I think that many times is a lot of the things where, like, when you ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they'll say, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. That they can see that future. It's just really, really, really far away. But it is, they can imagine it in their head, right? And I think that that's great. But I also think that's one sense of our potential. And then where I bring my faith into it is I think that God calls me, calls all of us to go even further than that, even further than the potential we can see. And I'm going to take us back to the rocket ship now, because a rocket ship, when it takes off, the altitude that it's going to, you can't see, you can't fathom. It has to go, and it's going to go so high, you'll lose sight of it, and it can't even see just how high it's going to go. And that is where I relate my potential of who God calls me to be. Is I cannot even imagine how high I want to go, and I have to just trust the process of getting there. But I can't even imagine it. And I think what that does sometimes is it discourages people, because they can't see just how high they can go, or how high that altitude, their projected altitude, really is. They can't see it, so they end up kind of giving up before they allow themselves to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I think that's gonna that keeps people from reaching it is maybe they have something that they're clinging to, that they're afraid to let go of. And that could be not just that could be like a vice or a struggle or something that they're really hung up with, but it could also just be like, I'm too busy right now, or I got a million other things to do. There's so many reasons that kind of that we may not allow ourselves to get to that altitude. And then
Mm-hmm.
I go back to this rocket analogy, right? And a rocket, when it first blasts off, a rocket has tons of different boosters and things that it needs to take off. But when it gets to a certain height, those boosters fall off. They have to fall off for it to get where it's going to go. And I think that's true in life. Is sometimes there are things that we cling to that we needed at one point in our life. We needed, maybe it's a relationship, or whatever, something that we really needed to get to a certain point. But if we want to go even further, even higher, we have to be okay with some of those boosters in our life, some of those things falling off. And it's not because of good or bad or whatever. So it could be many different things, but the reason they're falling off is because they can't go to the altitude that we are trying to go. They can't get to that potential that we are trying to get to. And I tell this to young people all the time, because I tell young people that the most you'll like this, because in martial arts, this is a big word, but one of the best versions of yourself is one of the most disciplined versions of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes to get to that best version, that highest version, you have to let certain things in your life fall off. You have to allow yourself to let go of certain things. And those could be relationships. Those could be things that you elevate in your life that seem really important right now, but
Mm-hmm.
could end up keeping you from where you're trying to go. And I think that that's what I want to really, really leave everybody with today, is that don't be afraid to let the rocket boosters in your life fall off. Don't be afraid to allow yourself to reach the altitude, to reach the potential that you can't even fathom, or you can't even see at this moment. And for me, that's where I feel I always related to. That's where God is calling me to be, because
Mm-hmm.
how great God is. God is pushing me to be as great as He's calling me to be, and I can't even fathom that right now. And even when I get to where I think that is, He will then raise the altitude for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think all of us, we should be constantly chasing the next highest potential, because I think really my big thought for today is potential is never reached, but always increased. Because anytime you think you get to it,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bigger mountain to climb. There's a higher altitude to reach. And I think that goes not just, I use it with faith, but I think that I can go with anything in your life.
Well,
Um, it,
you look at martial arts, right? We look at black belt as being kind of the pinnacle, but really truly black belt is just a goal that we set to take us to a whole new level. And then we got first degree, second degree, so on and so forth. So absolutely 100%. And you know what? I think that you're talking about young people, But you talk about mature people, and I think one of the things that holds us back from our potential is being comfortable and staying in that comfort zone. That prevents us from going to that next level. And you mentioned something several times. You said it several times, and we read it in the Bible several times. Do not be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Do not be afraid. And I think that that was a good message to incorporate with talking about potential today.
It's funny that you mentioned that. And this is kind of off topic, and we'll probably end up doing another whole day on this. But I want to just leave because you just said it, that the phrase "do not be afraid" or "be not afraid" in Scripture is said an estimated 365 times. And it's said that many times because it's a reminder that every day God reminds us to not be afraid of whatever it is that we fear on, because there are so many different fears that come into our life on a daily basis: fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of whatever. But God reminds us each and every single day to do not be afraid. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Well, that might be a topic for another event, another Tuesday Thoughts. I'm so super excited, guys. If you're again watching this live now, or maybe watching the replay, so excited to get Danny Cleary back online with these Tuesday Thoughts, because it's just one of my favorite things. You know, we both had the same mindset of let's put something positive out on social media during the pandemic, and here we are. Pandemic's pretty much done and gone for the most part, and we're bringing this back, and I think that this could be something great that we can all look forward to every Tuesday. The time may vary, whether it's 1 o'clock, 1:30, maybe we do a morning, but guys, we're going to try to keep this going on Tuesdays. And please let us know if there's a topic or a word that you would like us to discuss. And of course, as always, subscribe to the channel, share the videos, and we'll keep you up to date with the next one. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Danny, thank you so much for your Tuesday Thoughts. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, thank you very much. I look forward to next week. Make sure you join us and follow along.
All right, guys. Hey, make it a great week, and we'll talk real soon. Bye bye.